Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone's doing well. Before we get started, if you're not already a subscriber, please do hit that subscribe button. It will really help out my business and I would really love to have you as a subscriber. So welcome back to part 2 of the mixed media tags. So in this video what I'm doing, so I've now waited for all of the brush show to dry, so the tags are completely dry. I think I might have left them a day or two. And then what I am now doing is I'm adding a bit more interest to the background by using a background stamp. So originally I was just, I don't know if you just saw then, I was using the stamp and trying to press it onto the tag, which didn't really work just because of the size of these stamps. So basically what I moved on to doing was inking the actual stamp and then pressing the tag onto it. So because I've got the dies already kind of glued on there, it means that there are some areas where the stamp isn't hitting, which is exactly what I was after, because I didn't want to have like a full stamp print. I just wanted like a little bit of grunge and a little bit of interest to add to the backgrounds of these tags. What I will say is I did try to weigh these down, these tags, after they dried, just because on the ones that I'd used the heat tool on, and because these have got this like silver sort of metallic-y background, I think that using the heat tool curled them up a little bit too much. So I did try and put some weights on these just to try and help them out. So you'll see that some are extremely flat and some not so much. I actually can't really remember which ones are which, so whether I weighed them all down and these are just the results, or whether the ones I weighed down are the ones that are really flat and the ones that are a little bit curled are the ones that I just kind of left and the ones that I didn't use the heat tool on. So I am just going through all of my tags now, and I am just adding some stamping to them. I do really like how some of these actually turned out once they were dry. So some of them I was a little bit like, oh, that's just completely brown, or that's just one colour, that kind of thing. But actually they came out really nicely. So I was pretty pleased with how they actually turned out. So here I'm just showing you all of the tags now with all the stamping on, and they're now ready to move on to the next stage. One thing I will point out here, so I have got some black card that I've used as a backing for the tag, but what I'm actually doing is making these into skeleton tags, and I shouldn't have been cutting through the black backing pieces, because basically when you make a skeleton tag, if you've not heard of it before, it's where you've got your front of your tag and then you put a die cut or something in between it, maybe like a piece of netting or just something with like a bit of texture, a bit of something going on behind the hole that you've cut in the front of your tag, and then you put a full back on the back of your tag without the hole cut in, and then that means that you could then use the tag for journaling and things like that. Obviously if you didn't want to use the tag for journaling, then what I'm doing would work fine as well, because I can just sandwich the die cut in between. But for me, I always like to have tags available for journaling on. So you can see here that I've chosen a background die, and I'm just marking out roughly where the hole is, so I know how much to cut out because I didn't want to waste too much of this. And then I'm using an art glitter glue to attach the die. Now, I don't know if you just noticed, but I didn't even have the fine tip on the art glitter glue, so this must have been my very, very first bottle, because I don't even remember having art glitter glue without the fine tip, so I didn't really understand the strength of this, so I probably wouldn't really need to put the little ornaments on top of these to get a good kind of hold on the glue. But I think I do remember the dies kind of lifting a little bit after I'd cut them. So, you know, considering this is a bit of a mass make and I'm not exactly sitting and waiting on one, it doesn't cause any harm, does it, to just stick a little ornament or a little bottle of something on these little dies, just to kind of make sure they do stay in place. So obviously here you can see all the cool kind of silvery patterns that are on the back of these tags. and yeah, this is where I kind of came up short for ideas on how to use these. So if anyone's got any ideas on how I can use this particular card, other than using it as like a tag base, then please add something to the comments. I'd really love some ideas. And then obviously if there's any that you give me that are doable, I'll definitely make a video where I'm making those as well. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a little, I can't remember what they're called actually, but they're like water wax crayons sort of thing. The box that I've got, I don't think has any English on it, so I'm not exactly sure what they're called. But I think like Faber-Castell do something similar, and mine is just kind of like the cheapest one I could find, I think. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just running it along the edge, and I think this is quite a good alternative if you don't really like inking, as I'm sure you're all very aware that I don't really enjoy inking so much. So kind of running this around and then using your finger to smudge it across, it gives that inked kind of look anyway. Okay, so what I'm doing here, or what I was just doing, was I was using my Vasen Creative paper punch, which has a tag topper already in place. So I was using that to try and cut some tag shapes out, but it was quite difficult because I've already got a couple of layers on these tags, especially with the die cuts and stuff like that. So what I chose to do then was cut them into, just cut the corners off basically. So here I have just punched a few pieces of tea dyed paper with that punch so that they match this, and this was because I didn't want to kind of break the punch by trying to put it over lots and lots of different layers. So these are ones that I'm not turning into skeleton tags. These are just ones that I'm keeping whole. So I've just basically backed them with some tea dyed paper. So this was actually some notepad paper that I had experimented with. Again, as part of my job lot of craft punches that I got from Facebook Marketplace, I got these kind of border punches, which also don't really work. I think it was just like a lady that was getting rid of a lot of her things, and it just kind of, they were just really old things. So you can see here that I am now cutting out, so I've realised my mistake in punching the holes through the pieces of card that I'd already cut out. And then I've cut out some fresh pieces of black card, and then I'm now putting that on the back of these skeleton tags. And then what that does is it sandwiches the die in between, so you can see the die through the actual card, and that's what makes the skeleton tag. So this was something that I did do with the silver holographic cards, was I used them to die cut things out of, and I'm pretty pleased with how they look coming through. They actually look like proper silver, which is pretty cool. So that is one way that I could use them. So here I'm just literally grabbing a bunch of my tea dyed note paper, gluing the tags on there, because I realised it's easier to glue things onto the paper and cut around it than it is to cut around it and then glue it on and then find that you've not actually got it the right size. So I am massively speeding up the process on this just because I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again, and I just figured that you probably wouldn't want to see that for every single one of these tags like it was with the Brusho. But here I'm just basically cutting these into tag shapes. So I did just try and use the Vasen Creative one, but because I had the black backing paper, I've got dies on there, and the front paper, it was just a bit of a nightmare to try and actually get that punch through, and I ended up trimming it properly anyway. So this is now me using those wax crayons. So I think they work like a watercolour as well, but they also work like this. So I found that instead of using my finger, because it was actually hurting my finger a little bit to just keep running it along the edge of a piece of card, I chose to try a cotton bud. And, you know, I think it does a good job, although you can see now that I'm using my thumb rather than my index finger, and that's because my index finger was sore at this point, because I'd done a few of these, but not all of them. But so like here on the middle bit, just to try and make sure that I'm actually getting some like blending without kind of messing up the dye, I'm using the cotton bud to do that. But I am still kind of persevering with the finger, so I think, you know, I must think that it looks better using the finger rather than using the cotton bud. But like I say, I did this so long ago, it's kind of hard to remember what I was doing at the time. So really I'm just kind of watching these videos and trying to remember and just kind of narrate a little bit as to what I was actually doing. So I wanted the sort of ink dyed effect on the back on these as well. I might not have actually known really about distress oxides and inking paper and stuff like that at this point, or I might have just seen this on a tutorial or something and gone with that. But, you know, this is quite a cool way, although it is very messy in comparison to using the ink, because obviously you have you know, like the ink blenders and stuff like that. So you can see I'm speeding this up quite a lot now, because I am literally just doing the exact same thing over and over again. So I'm just doing like a couple of little key points whilst I am just kind of adding that. Oh, there we go. You can see that's what it is, and it wasn't in English. So if anybody speaks the language that was in, please do feel free to put it in the comments and let me know what I'm using. Okay, so now I am basically trying to figure out what charms, what embellishments and things like that I want on here. So the plan is, because I've cut holes in the top of all of these tags, is to add a little bit of ribbon or something like that and then attach a charm to it. So you can see there I've got a bit of red ribbon and I've attached a skeleton hand to that. And then the same with that one, a bit of lace. And I'm just trying to use like coordinating colours, colours that actually match what I'm looking at on the actual tags, so that it coordinates really, really well. And I'm also using silver charms as well, because obviously I've got the silver coming through on the die cuts as part of the skeleton tags. So I wanted to make sure I was using a silver charm in most places, just because that obviously kind of brings out that colour a little bit. I also, at this stage in my crafting, didn't have or didn't know about split rings. So what I'm using here is a little piece of, I think it's like silver elastic or something. And I'm using that as essentially a split ring, because some of these charms have really, really little, I don't know what you call them, just like the holes at the top. And I did try with a pokey tool to try and push the lace through in some of them, but some of them just didn't really work. So what I'm doing with this set, so the first 6, those were the skeleton ones. So I was quite happy to just literally add a dangle and kind of leave it like that, because obviously I've already got like the silver coming through of the die cuts. So these are the ones that are not the skeleton tags, and what I wanted to actually do was glue some of the charms to the tags themselves. So in some cases so you can see there I've got like this industrial super glue, and this is I did mention this actually in a video a little while ago, because I was using this to attach a gem. I think it was my Pastel Goth series, and I said it was Tracy Fox that I'd seen a video of, but I don't think it is actually. I think it's Anne Melvin from Positively Papercraft. I think she was the one that had made these lanterns using this particular glue. So this was when I still had the label on this glue. So if you were wondering about those videos, it's yeah, Anne Melvin at Positively Papercraft, I think. So this glue is terrifying and if you get it on your skin will stick to anything, including itself. So I have literally glued my fingers together at certain points. It's really quite dangerous. So you can see that I am trying to use tweezers with it, because I've already had a little bit of experience using this glue, and yeah. And also, I did use it for my friend. She had like a pom-pom on her keys and the pom-pom came off. So I used this glue, and honestly, that pom-pom is still on there today. But unfortunately, I spilt a little bit on my jeans, And that glue stain has never come out of my jeans. I still have those jeans and they have been washed and washed and washed and washed, and I just cannot get that glue stain out. Although, to be fair, I haven't tried things like rubbing alcohol or anything like that. But anyway, just, fair warning if you do decide to use that glue for anything. Okay, so we are coming to the end of this video. So I hope that you've enjoyed this little mini 2-part series. I think, like I say, I'm quite inspired, so I may be doing some more tags like this in the future. If anyone's got any kind of requests or any particular style that you'd like me to try, please feel free to add that into the comments as well. But yeah, I hope that you have enjoyed watching these videos. So the last thing I'm doing here is just the last bit of embellishing, which is adding the ribbons, and then those are done. So, okay, I will leave it there for today. So I hope that you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please do give me a thumbs up, and if you're not already a subscriber, please do hit that subscribe button. But thank you very much for watching these videos with me, and I will see you next time. Alright, bye guys!